Internal Revenue Service IRS tax news. Understanding the adoption credit. But first, an attempt at a joke. I apologize in advance. The government just can't stop spending. It's like an addicted gamer that can't stop playing, even for food. Maybe we need to elect a bear to represent us so we can end this craziness with a powerful pressing of pause. IRS Tax Tip 2022-09, January 18, 2022. Taxpayers who adopted or started the adoption process in 2021 may qualify for the adoption credit. This credit can be applied to international, domestic, private, and public foster care adoption. Taxpayers who adopt their spouse's child can't claim this credit. Here is some basic information to help people understand this credit and if they can claim it when filing their taxes. The maximum adoption credit taxpayers can claim on their 2021 tax return is $14,440 per eligible child. There are income limits. There's a link to those limits here that could affect the amount of the credit. Taxpayers should complete Form 8839, Qualified Adoption Expenses. There's a link to that here. They use this form to figure how much credit they can claim on their tax return. An eligible child must be younger than 18. If the adopted person is older, they must be unable to physically take care of themselves. This credit is non-refundable. This means the amount of the credit is limited to the taxpayer's taxes due for 2021. So in other words, it won't take the tax liability basically below zero. So you gotta owe the tax in order to take the credit and reduce the taxes with it. So any credit left over from their owed 2021 taxes can be carried forward up to 5 years. So in other words, it's not refundable. So when you're taking the credit in the current year, if you don't have enough taxes that are owed or a tax liability to cover the credit, then you're going to have a limit on the amount of the credit you can take in the current year, but you do have the carryover capacity to carry it over. So if you have income in the next year, up to the next 5 years, then you can take the credit up to the limit in the following year, and so on and so forth. So qualified expenses include reasonable and necessary adoption fees, court costs and legal fees, adoption-related travel expenses like meals and lodging, other expenses directly related to the legal adoption of an eligible child. In some cases, a registered domestic partner may pay the adoption expenses. If they live in a state that allows a same-sex second partner or co-parent to adopt their partner's child, these may also be considered qualified expenses. Expenses may also qualify even if the taxpayer pays them before an eligible child is identified. For example, some future adoptive parents pay for a home study at the beginning of the adoption process. These parents can claim the fees as qualifying adoption expenses. More information, there's links to this information below. The adoption taxpayer identification number, there's a link to that here. And subscribe to the IRS Tax Tips. There's a link to that here if you would like to do that. And there'll be a link to this in the description.